Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Backstage Bikini podcast with your host, Grace and Jade. And for today's episode, we are very excited to review the prestigious New York Pro. So, the New York Pro, I would say, is like the outside of the Olympia and the Arnold's, like one of the biggest shows of the year. We obviously reviewed Pittsburgh Pro last weekend, and there was some similar names in this show, but also some new ones. So we couldn't wait to go through it all. But Jade, what did you think of the result?
I wasn't surprised at all. I
Yeah.
really wasn't. Quite a few of the girls that we knew were in that lineup, and the ladies that actually competed were very much where I would have envisaged them, especially Ivy. I think Ivy Iskander did so amazing, and her physique and her shape this time round. I know that there was a little bit of sort of comments around the Olympia and her coming in that little bit too hard. I think she really nailed the look this time round. But yeah, the lineup and just everybody who presented themselves. Again, it was such a strong lineup, and I think there's 22 athletes, I want to say.
Yeah.
I think so.
Big lineup, and all the ladies in red. I have to say, red is looking like the color this year. I know we were thinking about pink, but I'm seeing more and more reds come out. I have to say, I absolutely love it. And it makes a change because we always used to see blues and purples, and that's what the Laura Lees were wearing and stuff like that. But I love the red doing its thing. And I know Ashley is a big wearer of red as well. So really, really nice. But we will go through.
I think it really suits that dark hair look.
Yeah,
really
absolutely. But even blonde, like shout out to an Australian friend of mine, Katie, who competed in Benidorm, and she has this lovely blonde hair, and she wore like a bright red. I think those kind of colors even stand out in the likes of Spain and stuff like that, and Portugal, in those kind of countries. So it's really, really nice. But going through everything here, we got the scorecard on the left, ranked all the way up to 16. And first place, we have Amy Delgado. So if you listen to our last podcast, you will have heard that she also came first in the Pittsburgh Pro. So no surprise there. We'll run through her physique in a moment. And then second, we have Rowana. Third, Evie. Fourth, Ellie. Fifth, Shanice. And sixth, Jessica Wilson. So starting with sixth, obviously Jessica competed last weekend, didn't she? I think she had a touch higher placing. Jade, was it around fifth or fourth that she got last weekend?
Yeah, I think she got fifth or fourth. Yeah, one of them. I think she was slightly higher. I think in terms of look, sort of comparative to last weekend versus this weekend, I don't think the look was that different. I just think she just came up against some crazy physiques. Yeah. And I think her structure is beautiful, but with the likes of sort of fifth upwards, I think structurally those girls are just elite. So I think it was a matter of her showing up her very best, but she was just beat on the day, unfortunately. But she still turned up and looked incredible.
Yeah, I think when I heard that Evie and Ellie were kind of coming into that show, I immediately had them in kind of second and third. So Evie coming over from Europe, obviously she's the highest ranked, I think, European pro. Obviously Phoebe plays quite highly in the Olympia last year, but Evie has won numerous shows in Europe. So she's like the Ashley of Europe, isn't she? The reigning champ. So it's quite a high, and I think a high placing for her, because usually she's coming like fourth and fifth, and I think she was absolutely thrilled with third as well in such a big show.
It's a huge show, yeah, and I think, like you said, it's difficult, I find, especially if you haven't got as big of a presence as those sort of athletes that make sure that they're competing on the US stages quite frequently. I think there is an element to this, as much as it's very impartial, and I don't for 1 minute think that the judges are drawn to people just because of a name, but I think the more you're exposed to those lineups, the more you have a stand-in, the more you have a chance of showing up and being recognized, and sort of putting yourself in the mix with those girls to pit yourself against them will give you an indication of how you need to come in to look for like the likes of the Olympia. So I think this for her has been like a breakthrough placing massively, because I think overseas, I think this is the highest she's placed.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about that last night as well. But here we have the first call outs. Screenshot courtesy of Jade, who stayed up quite late, I think, didn't you?
It was literally, it was an all-nighter.
about 100 screenshots of the show. But yeah, really.
I think I sent through like 80 screen grabs.
And you were doing that like 1 or 2 a.m. I love it. Dedication at its finest. But we have the first call outs here. Really, really strong lineup. And athletes that I haven't really seen much of before. You know, I think we've all heard of Amy and Evie and obviously Jessica. But we have Maria Acosta in there. We have Raywana, who I hadn't actually heard much of, but I know she's been to the Olympia and she's been on the scene, but I hadn't seen her in many shows, or at least getting, you know, top 2. So it was interesting to see her in that. And then the lady on the far right, Jade, will you remind me of her name?
Shanice, yeah.
Shanice, yeah. Really strong. And look, she's owning. Looks like a taller athlete, and she's owning it, because I know these girls are a lot shorter. Like Amy is short, Maria is obviously the smallest there, and I know Evie is quite short. I've stood beside her before, so to hold your own in a lineup like that, as a taller athlete, I think is amazing. But what did you think of?
I think her glutes. Yeah, I think Shanice's glutes in particular, really sort of carried her physique. Like I said, she's got a lovely structure anyway, but her glute fullness from the back, for a taller athlete, I can only imagine how much muscle mass is on that frame in order to create that look. Like you said, she's coming up against athletes that are at least 4 inches shorter than her. So from a sort of muscle development standpoint, it's going to be much more challenging for her, and she's going to have to carry much more muscle on her frame comparative to smaller athletes. So yeah, I think that look from the back, she had a fantastic job. Potentially a little bit too much conditioning through the hamstrings there, if you're looking at that picture. But I mean, it's a hairline at this point in time. Like top 3, very, very hard to distinguish, really. I mean, Ivy from the back there as well. Gorgeous glutes.
Much improved. I think at the Olympia, I did think she was way too hard, and you could see the veins even on the live stream, and it was too much for me. And even the bikini color, but I think this is more her, and I think this was actually one of her best packages. Her glutes don't look overly conditioned, you know, neither does her upper body at all. Looks very, very balanced. So Jamie did a really, really good job at peaking her this time around. But I think if you compare Amy and Evie together, I think it is a condition thing. I still think that Amy has nailed the condition of the bikini criteria that bit more. Because glute size, obviously Evie looks like she has way bigger glutes, but it's not a competition of that. You know, it's who has the best balance and the best conditioning. Because if you look at that, like, I wouldn't even say that Amy has the leanest back shot out of any of them. Do you know, if anything, she probably, what do you think, maybe has the softest?
Or I think she has
softest,
come in
but
softer.
You know, less conditioned.
Less conditioned, no, but in a way, I mean, arguably as well, I think she was slightly fuller. There was a little bit more of a pop at the Pittsburgh Pro. I know they loaded quite heavily in. I watched her YouTube, and they loaded quite heavily into that show. So she woke up full the morning of sort of prejudging. So I don't know whether they replicated this, and obviously the more times you compete, the variables will change undoubtedly anyway. But I think conditioning wise, she still nailed it. I don't think there was any sort of argument really. Raywana, I always say her name wrong. Very, very, very full as well from the back. I think it's come down to preference really, because her glutes arguably look that little bit fuller from the rear. But you're talking about 2 of the girls with, like I said previously, the structure is just undeniable. So I think at that point, realistically, it probably came down to preference, and I think Amy just nailed it again. There was nothing out of place for her. And you're coming up against athletes where you're picking fault as opposed to actually picking things that look great at this point.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'd say it was such a difficult decision for the judges. Like, I think these last 2 shows have been really, really close. I think it's like you said, it's like, okay, who is like the best, but you're trying to find these little faults. And to be honest, like with Amy, like her front shot to me just like trumps it all. Like how the proportions sit, you know, how that X frame is like, to me, I said on the last one, like she is that X frame. Like I just see it there. Like I can't really pick a fault in either shot as well. So
and it's interesting because people go to sort of certain, I mean, we know that from a criteria standpoint, you want the tight waist and you want the taper and you want the full glute and things like that. But if you look at even the waist sizes across that lineup, they're very different, but they are proportionate to that body. So if you had any more of an extreme sort of waistline on Amy, for example, she'd be edging towards sort of the Issa look, where it'd even potentially look a little bit too crazy.
Too extreme.
And like we said in the previous, with a previous Pittsburgh Pro, you take any muscle off Amy. I know there's an argument to say she's too well, she carries too much muscle for the division, but you take it off anywhere and it's going to misplace her physique. It's going to make it look off balance. So it's, the lineup was just incredible. I think a few markers with condition potentially, which affected placings, but yeah, Amy nailed it.
She really, really did. And here we have the top 4 confirmation. All the girls in red. We've got Evie, Amy, Raywana, and Ellie. You can really see the kind of difference in conditioning here as well. I know you'd mentioned about Ellie's kind of conditioning from the front, but arguably you could, like, Raywana's conditioning from the front is even more so. Like, you can kind of see her quad detail. I know it's obviously down to posing a lot, but she is quite conditioned from the front.
Those things,
you can even see it on her inside
those
of the
things
leg.
Matter though as well. I mean, Ellie as well. Ellie from the back, like especially in her individual presentation, you could see the hamstring detail and it was just too much. You could see the separation. You can see it a little bit on that picture actually. With the hamstrings are quite etched out, but when she was moving as well, I think that her placing in terms of coming in 4th to Ivy, I think it was a conditioning point there, maybe just far too hard. If I'm honest, through the back. Incredible structure. I think if she comes in a little bit softer from the back, from the rear, then she potentially could have misplaced Ivy.
I know with Ellie, I've heard before, about her waist, and you can see it here. Like, she does probably have the more thicker waist out of everybody. So I'd say there's a concern, like we always speak about, like trying to find that balance between bringing the legs in that little bit softer while also having the midsection tight. And looking at these ladies, I can actually relate to Ellie a lot more with her physique, because I'm somebody who my legs could be quite conditioned, but I need to pull in my midsection as well. And it's a really, really tough thing to get right, because I'd say she knew, like we spoke about, like these pros know who they're up against and they're trying to match that as best they can, so it's like trying to get a waist as small and as tight as these girls as well, while also not bringing in the legs too much. And it's a really, really hard balance to get right. And like I've been in a position myself where I'm like, how do I even do that? How do I even soften my legs while keep my midsection tight? And obviously you could talk about off seasons and stuff like that, but at this level it's very, very tough to get right, and it's a peaking thing more than anything, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think with time and experience, I mean, I'm not for 1 minute saying that Ellie hasn't got that under her belt with a coach and things like that, but at the end of the day, all you can do is manipulate things and see what works best. And sometimes you're going to come in too hard, sometimes you're going to come in too soft, and like we always say, it's subject to who turns up on the day. Like if you're not, at the end of the day, you can't control how anybody else comes in. All you can control is how you come in, and you're going to position yourself as best you can to bring your best package to date and like comparable to who actually shows up on the day. Then that's when you fall either too hard, too soft, or that type of thing starts to come in. So I just think a little bit too much conditioning from the back, but I feel for her, because it's hard to get it right. Especially in this division.
I know, but such a strong lineup here. I have to say, now that I've kind of looked into Raywana a little bit more, I'm such a fan of her physique. Just incredibly well put together and polished and tidy looking, and she's just stunning. I think she'll do really, really well. So I'd say she'll probably get her Olympia qualification fairly soon.
Her posing is beautiful as well. I remember watching quite a lot of her tutorials, like do's and don'ts.
Oh, really?
In like one of my previous preps, following her Instagram, she used to put quite a few bits and pieces up. But her genetics in terms of her structure, there's no denying it. It's absolutely stunning. Like the ratio she has is just crazy. And even in off season, you can see that shape. She just carries it through.
Yeah. So she looks like somebody who just holds a really good composition in her off season. Very good as well. So we have the winner, the gorgeous Amy Delgado. I have to say, I'm becoming more and more obsessed with her as time goes on. I just think she nails it in every sense. I don't think there was much difference. I know you said there was like a little bit of kind of fullness maybe sacrificed between the last showing, and like back-to-back peak weeks is always going to be a little bit more challenging. It's her fourth show, so I'd say her body is getting to that point now where it could be a little bit tired. I know she's resting up now towards the Olympia, but you know, I think the back-to-back peak weeks and the 2 wins and stuff, like she nailed it. Again, absolutely beautiful.
There's no denying it. Yeah, there's no denying it. Like we said previously, her presentation on stage, her posing, everything is to the button. There's nothing out of place, and she just carries herself so well as an athlete as well, inside and outside of the sport. I think she's a great advocate for it and a great role model. And she just deserved the win wholeheartedly, and it really got me emotional when her daughter came on stage as well.
Stop. Yeah, because her
I was
daughter didn't make the
blubbering.
last.
Yeah.
Her daughter didn't make the last show. It's
No.
incredible, and like what an inspiration for your mum to be up on stage, you know, and see her doing the thing. She's probably a young pro in the making herself. But incredible.
She's definitely got a few of the poses down. If you watch her Instagram, it's fantastic. But yeah, I just think Amy, in terms of her momentum going into the Olympia, it couldn't be higher at this point. I mean, if you remember, Laura Lee won the New York Pro last year, and she was a strong favorite going into the Olympia. So I know that wasn't ultimately the result, but the momentum she got as a result of that pro win into the Olympia was just incredible. So Amy's got the benefit of not only riding the Pittsburgh Pro, but the New York Pro as well into the show. So confidence and sort of momentum will be at its all-time highest. So yeah, if she can come in like this at the Olympia, she's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, I was just going. How would you compare her to Laura Lee if it was a battle between the two of them at the Olympia this year?
I think with Laura Lee, the difficulty is when she's full, when she's bubbly. It's that bubbly muscle. It's that sort of exuding sort of health and feminism that Laura Lee's shape has. I know there's an argument to say that her glutes are too big, and obviously in terms of her showing, we
I lost you there, Jade.
haven't seen what she's been doing up until recently. So
no, you're back.
That was strange.
You're back.
I'm back. But no, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what improvements Laura Lee's made between sort of the previous Olympia, because I haven't seen her yet. So I'm not sure what her plans are in terms of shows and where we're going to see her prior to the Olympia, or whether she's just going to wait it out and go straight in. I'm not sure. But from a comparison standpoint, I do think Amy structurally and at the moment in terms of fullness and her shape overall, I think it's very, very balanced. It's the most balanced it's been. And if Laura Lee comes in off, even in a hairline, or if that balance isn't quite there for her, I think Amy could have it.
Yeah, I agree.
Personally,
I agree. I just think the balance and the fullness here would beat Laura Lee. Like, even when Laura Lee's full, I still think that Amy could actually take it, and that's coming from somebody who's a massive fan of Laura Lee as well. But honestly, Amy has proper shocked me this year, and it just depends. Like, Laura Lee, her tie-ins can be super, super tight, and Amy's are not super, super tight. So it also depends on what they kind of look for as well. These kind of tie-ins remind me of almost like a Jen, you know, a kind of Jen Dory,
Jen Dory,
overly kind of conditioned. So, but again, it just depends what they go for this year, and how Laura Lee gets peaked as well. But I can't wait for that battle.
Honestly, I mean, even looking at that back shot as well, her shoulders are full, but they're not capped, and there's the etching's not there. I just think she really, really nailed that look. So if she can bring that to the Olympia, it does remind me a lot of the sort of Maureen sort of bubble and the fullness and the balance as well. So she's a massive, massive contender for me this year. I think she's going to be top 3 if she turns up like this.
Yeah, I agree. Big shout out. We have to shout out Marnie all the time, because it was her final show of the season.
Every single one.
Every
single one. Yeah.
But that's her now until she steps on stage again. She's getting no more mentions. So joking. But she looks stunning. She looks stunning, and I think she brought in a much, much tighter package, and obviously her coach was over this time around. So I'd say him seeing her in person, and just, I suppose, maybe the stress off the back of the other week, you know, dropping off, and just knowing that it's her last showing, I'd say there was just a pure enjoyment, stress-free kind of time as well. So I actually really, really liked her conditioning. You can see it a lot more, and you can see it in her walk as well, and in her rear shot. So she nailed it. And like we said it before, like her body was probably tired at this point in time. She's been on prep since December. I think actually even longer than that. I can't remember what she said before that. It is a long time, you know, and with all of the travel, and she's a busy posing coach as well. So she nailed it given that.
I just think, like you said, it's such a long season and such a momentous season as well. Like a lot has changed in her life. Like she's achieved this huge goal. She's thrown herself into the Shark Tank. And I think the overwhelm from that would be enough to curb anybody as well. So for her to have composure through this entire process and go and do what she's done, I think she's done incredibly well. And this is just the beginning. Like she set out to go out there, make a mark, see where she stood, get the feedback from the people that matter, and go from there. And I think it's a very wise and a very sort of informative move. She's not just gone out there to try and win and to collect medals. It's been an information and a data gathering sort of situation. So and she looked so at home up there.
I know, doesn't
confidence
she?
wise was
really
so much,
does
fits
in very, very well in the American scene. But I know she wanted when she earned a pro card, it was very like, okay, what's the next step? And I think she said herself that, you know, she kind of wasn't present as much as she would like to be, that she was constantly looking at the next thing. So I'd say it will all kind of hit her when she wraps up the season, like what she's actually achieved, because not many people earn their pro card and go straight into a show like this, you know. So I'd say it's just been a whirlwind of emotions, and it will all kind of hit her in the weeks to come. But excited to see the improvements that she makes. I know she said that it was a glute thing. I think for everybody it's a glute thing, isn't it? Incredibly hard to build, but I've no doubt she'll make some epic progress with the motivation from this season alone. You know,
well, this is it. It's just a springboard, isn't it now? And I think from Sandy's, I think she posted Sandy's feedback, just if anything going forward, that upper glute roundness, and I think that is ultimately the goal for most bikini athletes anyway. So if she can get that and just continue to sort of taper her body and sort of prune that muscle, if you like. I know Adam calls it pretty muscle. Just really bed it all in. I think she's going to be a huge contender going forward.
Absolutely. Well done, Marnie. We have Maria Costa in here. I wanted to add her in as a specimen mention, because I really, really like her physique. I've seen her on the scene before, but I love how much muscle she has. I know there's all these arguments of like, oh, it's too much muscle, but she's a smaller athlete, so I feel like you can get away with it. But I really, really like her structure. Glutes are insane.
Beautiful.
Potentially a little bit too lean at the tie-ins, but size-wise, I'm loving it.
100%. I think she's coached by Jordan Lee as well, I think, who is obviously an Olympian herself, pro athlete herself. So in terms of an eye for detail and things like that, I think Jordan, she's in very good hands. But Maria, really, really like her. I've only seen her once before. I can't remember the show that I watched her at. But when I saw her, I was like, wow.
Yes.
It's the glutes for me. Arguably a little bit too much conditioning through the bottom, but I mean, that's for a New York Pro showing, top 7.
It's not her pro debut, but what other shows has she competed in before? Do you know? I don't think she's got as high a placing though as this.
That's her at the top, the MV Bozo.
Yeah, my thing is very slow. But yeah, for a shorter athlete, like they're just so compact, so it's very, very easy to say, oh, they've got too much muscle. But she was the smallest on stage, you know, so I'd say she's maybe only about 5 foot, if anything. She holds it incredibly well. Conditioning from the front, not too much.
No, structure's really lovely as well. Like she's got a really nice top line. It's nice and full, and it's quite difficult to get that sometimes. Sort of that depth from sort of the back to the chest, just to make sure that you're not looking a little bit two-dimensional from the front. And I think her physique in particular is very well-rounded, well-rounded. Yeah. A little bit of hair, too much detail from the back.
Just on the glutes.
Just on the glute.
Yeah. But everything else is pretty spot on to me. Again, like it's so difficult to get that right when everything is spot on. But no, I thought she was absolutely gorgeous. I have to say, big shout out to her. So I'm excited to see how her season does. But any other mentions that we have missed here, Jade?
I don't think so. Just a shout out to Petra again.
Yeah.
She showed up again with a much improved package. I think she came in a little bit leaner this time around, but she looked really well. And of course, she's a UK athlete, so shout out to her as well. I can only imagine how difficult it is to get up on those American stages as well. You're on foreign land, and sort of getting your name out there and being a contender, even as a pro anyway, just showing up day after day, time after time, trying to get your name out there. It's a lot, and the athletes really sort of embody everything that you'd expect and want an athlete to sort of do and carry themselves. So yeah, big shout out to her, and all of them really. And
a shout out to is it the girl from Hungary I'm thinking of? I'm trying to find her name here. You know, the tall girl from Hungary. I can't.
Is it from the Ukraine, Valeria?
Yes. So she's I love her physique, but I think standing amongst these girls, you kind of see what needs work. Like, she dominated the European scene obviously last year, only got a pro card and then went straight to the Olympia. But I think it's a glute thing with her, and just catching up with the
condition
the rest of the
as
girls.
Well. Yeah, condition wise as well. I think in a walk going forward, you could really see that etched detail through the quad, which is so impressive. But for bikini, I just think it's a fine line. So I think the because of how tall she is as well, like you said, those glutes from the back, Shanice did a fantastic job of carrying her glutes from the back. But I think if she can develop her physique from the back, I think she'd be dangerous as hell.
Yeah, and like you said, fair play to the European athletes going over to the US scene and being in the mix, because, you know, there's more shows over in the US, and like all of the athletes from there, you know, the athletes from Vegas, they know the judges, you know, they know the shows, they're well used to the area, they're used to the climate, you know, they have the time zone, all that kind of thing locked in. So it's not easy. Like, it's not just a flight going over there. Like, it's a very new environment, new judges, you know, new show and all that kind of thing. So it's a learning experience for all of them as well. So I'm sure they'll be working up in the ranks as well. But let us know your thoughts on this showing, guys. We love to hear your feedback, and we love doing these show reviews, and we're going to be doing plenty more. And also keep up to date with our Instagram, where we'll be sharing live updates, news with shows, athletes, both amateurs and pro, and we want to be your hub for everything bikini and news and stuff like that. So do keep up to date. But Jade, any last words before we wrap it up?
No, just can't wait for Amy to win the Olympia.
We're rooting for her. We're fingers crossed we can get her on the podcast.
The bias is so strong right now.
I know. We're gonna have some hate in the comments, but Team Amy all the way.
Ashley.
I know. Well, hopefully we can get her on the podcast. It would be absolutely incredible. What an honor to speak to her. But let us know your thoughts, guys, and do be sure to share us on your social media platforms, and we'll catch you in the next episode.